What's up? Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. I'm Dustin, sitting here at Nameco.
Double guns.
Heading into week 12, crunch time. Before we get into it, shout out to Vincent out in Maryland, our weekly pick'em winner. We'll be getting in touch, getting you that shirt. But we've been getting a lot of questions in the forums about, potentially benching your studs and wondering why we always say stick with your studs, stick with your studs. Brent, go for it.
All right, the easiest way, this is tough, but the easiest way for me to describe it is MTS. Now, this is my own made-up thing right now, but matchup, talent, situation. You got to put all those factors in and don't weigh too much on the matchup. An example of somebody that you could have possibly said was Andre Johnson last week. Sure, he was on Revis Island, but we're only saying bench him if you have a great option, like a guy that's playing great with a pretty good matchup, like a Dwayne Bowe. But a good example of why you should never bench your studs is last week we had a question specifically asked LeGarrette Blount versus the Niners or Arian Foster versus the Jets. A lot of the community were saying bench Arian Foster. We actually said you should keep Foster in the lineup, caught some flack for it, and we're not getting on our soapbox here, but the reason is, again, that MTS is what I was talking about. Sure, the matchup isn't that great versus the vaunted Jets run D, but the talent level, Foster's obviously proven he's been better this entire year, and his situations is a lot better than LeGarrette Blount because he's the only one rushing the ball where Blount is going to be splitting carries with Cadillac. So you just got to remember you got to put a lot more into it and don't look too much into the matchup.
Moral of the story is more often than not, if you go against your studs by just throwing in just some decent matchup, you're probably going to regret it. So just stick with your studs in most cases.
All right, Dustin, it's time to answer some of those forum questions. The first one comes from Erican78. Wants to know Sidney Rice versus Washington or Nate Burleson against the New England Patriots.
On Turkey Day. Here's the thing, Sidney Rice came back last week, looked pretty good, but it's still a gamble even against the Redskins. He could have a big game, but stick with Burleson, who you know is going to be out there the whole game. And just as easy as a matchup, Patriots, terrible defense. All right, Brent, we got one from Jay Salvo 220. Which receiver, Bolden versus Tampa Bay, Mike Wallace versus Buffalo, or Mike Williams, Tampa Bay versus Baltimore?
This one's actually easy for me. I'm going Mike Wallace. Since Ben Roethlisberger's been back in the lineup, Mike Wallace has been blowing up. He's been playing great. Mike Wallace.
A little tricky. In a PPR league, I would consider Bolden, but I just...
Other than one blow-up game, Bolden's been a little bit better than average. He wanted me to add a little bit. $10. Side bet.
No, I'm sticking with Wallace in most cases, but...
See?
Bolden, I would think about it, but I'd probably stick with Wallace.
But he'd go Wallace. All right. It's Fat Tony wants to know Ocho Cinco versus the Jets or Vincent Jackson. Welcome back. If you drafted him in the 4th round and held on to him, it's finally going to pay off versus the Indianapolis Colts.
I'm going Vincent Jackson here. The receiving core out there is banged up. Creighton just got hurt again. Floyd got re-injured his injury. I think Vincent Jackson's going to be asked to do a lot. And I'm just not sold that Ocho Cinco is going to have much success against the Jets' good cornerbacks. Studs, duds, and sleepers time. We'll start with my stud, and Joe Flacco is going to be throwing the Bolden all day long against Tampa Bay. My dud, T.O. versus the Jets. Going back against those cornerbacks. They're saying Revis is going to cover him. Scary situation. I think the Bengals will move the ball, but not with Ocho Cinco and T.O. And my sleeper, Derek Hagan. Going with the Giants, he's going to be in the starting lineup, it looks like, with a good matchup against the Jaguars. I think he could have a sneaky good game.
We did not do this on purpose. My stud, Ray Rice versus Tampa Bay. So I obviously think the Ravens are pretty much going to kill him. He's been running the ball great. Bucks are terrible against the run. I think he finally gets into the end zone again. My dud, Carson Palmer versus the Jets. Palmer has looked terrible in reality. Fantasy-wise, he's put up decent stats. I think this is the week it catches up to him. Sit Palmer at all costs. And my sleepers, Kevin Boss versus the Jags. My reason behind this, Nix is out. I think Boss becomes the #1 red zone target. I wouldn't be at all surprised with 5 catches, like 70 yards and a touchdown out of him.
Yeah, we really didn't do that on purpose, but that was...
I'm betting on all 3 of those games.
All right, it's time for Mike's picks. His stud is Phillip Rivers against the Colts. He knows the Colts have a good pass D, but he doesn't think Rivers is going to get affected by that. His dud is Fred Jackson versus Pittsburgh. It looks like Spiller might come back, and even if he doesn't, it's a scary matchup. And his sleeper, Anthony Armstrong against the Vikings. The Redskins have been throwing the ball a lot. Vikings pass D hasn't looked that good. He thinks Armstrong might catch one of those long bombs for a touchdown. So that's it for this week's show. Hope everyone has a nice Turkey Day. Enjoy that full day of football. I'm Dustin. This is Brent. See you next time.
Ending with double guns.